Hello and welcome to the Papyrus Global African News Update. I am Christiana Babayo and here are today's headlines. South African rand slice a stronger dollar, rising oil prices rattle markets. BP considers selling some Egypt gas assets amid global restructuring. Africa CDC confirms Ebola outbreak in eastern Congo, raises regional alarm. Morocco to boost 2026 budget by $2 billion to cushion impact of Middle East conflict. Kenya raises retail prices for fuel due to Iran conflict. Nigeria rights body calls for probe into civilian deaths in military airstrikes. Zambia lifts restrictions on sulphuric acid exports to Congo as supply improves. Ghana cedi expected to stay weak as African currencies show mixed outlook. Zimbabweans lured into Russia-Ukraine war as families and authorities seek answers. Madagascar opposition seeks court's removal of military leader amid rising political tensions. And now the news in details. South Africa's rand weakened sharply against the US dollar on Friday as rising oil prices and global economic uncertainty rattled investors. The currency fell by about 1% in early trading, while the dollar recorded its strongest weekly performance in over 2 months. Analysts say concerns over inflation, possible interest rate hikes, and tension in the Middle East are affecting market confidence. Oil prices also surged following comments by US President Donald Trump that China plans to buy American oil. Investors are also closely monitoring talks between Trump and Chinese president for signals on global trade and economic stability. Global energy company BP is considering selling some of its natural gas assets in Egypt as part of efforts to reduce debt and focus on more profitable projects. Sources say the review is part of a restructuring strategy under the company's new leadership, although no final decision has been made. BP has invested more than $35 billion in Egypt over the past 6 decades and currently produces a major share of the country's natural gas. Despite declining production levels, the company recently announced a new offshore gas discovery and secured additional exploration concessions in Egypt's Mediterranean energy sector. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has confirmed a new Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo's Ituri province, raising fears of cross-border transmission in Central and East Africa. Health officials say 246 suspected cases and 65 deaths have been recorded, with 4 laboratory-confirmed fatalities. Authorities are particularly concerned about the rapid movement of people in mining communities and urban centers near Uganda and South Sudan. The Africa CDC says emergency talks are underway with regional governments on global health partners to strengthen surveillance and response efforts. Initial investigations suggest that the outbreak may involve a non-Zaire strain of the Ebola virus. Morocco has announced plans to add about 20 billion dirhams, roughly $2 billion, to its 2026 budget to help cushion the impact of the ongoing Middle East conflict on its economy. A government source says the funds will support price stabilization measures as rising global energy costs hit the import-dependent North African nation, which relies heavily on foreign oil, gas, and coal. Officials say the money will help maintain subsidies for cooking gas, transport and electricity, protecting citizens' purchasing power. The package will also cover flood-related damages and other emergency spending as Morocco targets economic growth and reduced fiscal deficit next year. Kenya has increased retail fuel prices again, citing rising global crude oil costs linked to ongoing tensions in the Middle East. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority says petrol will now sell at 214.25 shillings per litre, while diesel rises sharply to 242.92 shillings. Kerosene remains unchanged at 152.78 shillings. The latest adjustment follows a major hike last month, reflecting continued pressure on international oil supplies and import costs. Officials say the new prices will run from May 15th to June 14th. Kenya, which exports more of its fuel from the Middle East, remains highly exposed to global energy market volatility. Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission has called for a thorough investigation into repeated civilian deaths linked to military airstrikes in conflict zones across the country. The Commission says the incidents raise serious concerns about compliance with humanitarian law, urging the armed forces to ensure better protection of civilians during operation. Amnesty International alleges that at least 100 people were killed in a recent airstrike on a market in Zamfara state, though the military denies the claim. The United Nations Human Rights Chief also demanded an independent probe. Nigeria says investigation into previous incidents are already underway. Zambia has eased restrictions on sulphuric acid exports to the Democratic Republic of Congo after local supplies improved. Trade Minister Chipoka Mulenga says two major mining firms have been cleared to resume limited shipments to Congo while protecting domestic demand. Sulphuric acid is a key chemical used in extracting copper and cobalt, minerals critical to the global clean energy industry. Zambia has restricted exports last year due to supply shortages and disruptions linked to the Middle East conflict. Analysts say the latest move could help stabilize mining operations and supply chains across the Central African Copper Belt region. African currencies are showing mixed performance according to traders. Ghana's cedi is expected to remain under pressure due to strong dollar demand from importers and the energy sector, with limited foreign exchange inflows from mining and central bank support. In Kenya, the shilling is projected to stay stable as demands and inflows remain balanced. Nigeria's naira is also expected to hold steady, supported by central bank interventions on oil earnings. Uganda's shilling remains unchanged after its policy rate was held at 9.75%. Meanwhile, Zambia's kwacha is expected to strengthen slightly on improved foreign currency inflows from the mining sector. We will now go on a short break, and when we come back, the news will continue. Stay tuned.
The Papyrus Global, we don't just cover events, we create cinematic experiences. From red carpets to birthdays, gala dinners, and your fairy tale weddings, we bring your moments to life with high-tech precision. Our gadgets are smarter, our lenses sharper, and our team simply world-class. Trust the Papyrus Global to tell your story in the boldest, brightest way possible.
Welcome back, and now the news will continue. Zimbabwe is facing growing concern over reports that some citizens are being recruited or trafficked into Russia's war in Ukraine. Families say loved ones left home after being promised jobs abroad but later ended up in military situations. One Harare family says their relatives sent a message from Russia before news emerged that a traveling companion had been killed in Ukraine. Authorities say at least 18 Zimbabweans may have been killed, though only a few bodies have been repatriated due to documentation issues. Government officials blame criminal networks exploiting job seekers, while investigations into trafficking suspects and recruitment agents are ongoing. Madagascar is facing fresh political tension as the opposition moves to challenge President Michael Randrianirina in court, accusing him of constitutional violations. Opposition lawmaker Antoine Rogerison has filed a petition at the High Constitutional Court seeking his removal, alleging abuse of office and controversial government appointments since he assumed power in 2025 October. President Michael, a military leader, came to power after youth-led protests forced former President Andry Rajoelina out over economic hardship. Although initially welcomed, public discontent has returned, with renewed protest over slow reforms. Right groups also report heavy-handed security responses. The case could shape Madagascar's political future and stability. And that brings us to the end of today's African News Update. But before we go, a recap of our main headlines. South African rand slides into stronger dollar, rising oil prices rattle markets. BP considers selling some Egypt gas assets amid global restructuring. Africa CDC confirms Ebola outbreak in eastern Congo, raises regional alarm. Morocco to boost 2026 budget by $2 billion to cushion impact of Middle East conflict. For continuous coverage and breaking developments, stay connected with the Papyrus Global Television at papyrusdaily.com. I am your host, Christiana Babayo. Thanks for joining us.